Watching this spectacular parade unfold on this beautiful sunshine morning, looking around the happy faces, I wondered how many amongst the thousands enjoying the Independence Day celebrations really thought about the historical significance from which this very same place, the West Indies Regiment, was hurriedly dispatched to quell the slave revolt led by Bussa that was sweeping the island. The formation of soldiers in battle, ready positions, signaled one of the most important commemorative events in the history of this island. The well-armed regiment with its vast firepower overwhelmed the uprising. But, as the saying goes, you may kill the body, but the spirit and souls of these heroic men and women, men like Bussa, have left an indelible mark that will forever be an important element in the arrivals of their descendants. To witness these descendants of the brave men and women who gave their lives in the pursuit of dignity and freedom, now independent and wearing the military colors as they parade at the historic Garrison Savannah, are a sight to behold. What indeed would Bussa and his comrades think of this had they been around? The memory lingers on, but today, the happiness as we celebrate the independence from Great Britain is indeed a joyous occasion. There is no memory that time cannot heal. The frightened, huddled masses of slaves in dark, cramped despair crossing the big river, fearing the unknown. This terrifying emptiness is unimaginable by us today. What else, we wonder, crossed the minds of men, women, and children as they sailed from the shores of Africa to this land of ours? Today, we can only imagine. Yes, we can only imagine. The slaves forcibly being taken from their land, their families, friends, and a vibrant culture, chained together with strangers and led across fields, hills, and rocky terrain. Being led to dark, dismal holding centers where masses of slaves awaited the ship to take them across the ocean to God knows where. What were their thoughts and their reactions to this deplorable situation and inhumane circumstance in which they were placed? Their cries, their pain, the bewildered looks on their face echoed their feelings of emptiness. The questions arose 100 times in their minds. Why? Where are we going? What will become of us? Will we ever be able to return to our own land? Who are these people? What have we done to them?
Gola Island is a small island off the coast of Senegal where the slaves were taken, kept there for a while, and then they were put on board the ships for the passage across the Atlantic. The most interesting thing about that experience was that Gola Island is very high off the sea, and the boat would dock, the slave ship would dock by the shore, and the slaves would have to almost jump onto the ship. But a high percentage of those slaves jumped into the water rather than going into the boat. And as I was told then, up until recently, it was still an area infested with sharks, because the sharks would just wait for the slaves to jump off the ship, and there would be food for the sharks. So it's still a highly infested shark area. So that was the the beginning of the transatlantic trip.
The ship arrives. Cruel, inhumane overseers huddle the frightened souls to dark, dingy decks below. These slave traders must establish their authority right from the beginning, whipping, screaming, terrifying individuals who must set the tone of understanding for the huddled slaves. Your lives are in our hands. The voyage across the seas must have been a nightmare. The turbulence, the torturous position of being chained together is horrific. Many died. Many who managed to get away from this group jumped overboard only to die in the darkened waters.
If there was ever an experiment of selecting the finest species of any animal that existed on Earth, the transatlantic slave trade was that experiment.
However, large members made the rough passage through strength, determination, and sheer grit.
The fittest human beings any place on this planet Earth.
They made it to this land. Yes, they made it. But what was to come is where the true story begins. Slavery to independence and beyond.
Anne Watson Yates, in her book Bygone Barbados, states these were the displaced people who survived a terrible physical and mental journey. The ancestors of these children came from many West African countries and tribes, all with distinct languages, and at first could scarcely communicate among themselves. They triumphed against the odds to produce generations of strong and healthy children. These are the children who studied in chattel houses by candles and oil lamps to pass examinations set in a country they had never seen and barely understood, who passed these examinations with distinction to take their places at elite universities and enter elite professions. They did not become so elitist that they forgot their own people. They returned to their island as doctors and lawyers, entered politics, and lifted their people up with them in every aspect of life. By chance, they arrived and settled on a beautiful island. By hard work and determination, they have made it their own. Now people from away are very welcome to come and share it for a memorable week or two of their lives. But this land is ours, and every square inch should remain ours forever.
So you have in the Caribbean a species of people who by selection of the slave trade have got in them the best and purest genes of any human being, any place on this planet Earth.
Many of the slaves who came to our shores were determined that they would never, ever surrender to their masters. They did what they had to do, but they were always thinking, planning, determined that this would not be the way their lives would be. One such person was Bassa, who was brought to Barbados. Bassa was taken from Africa and enslaved on Bailey's plantation in the late 18th century. On April 16, 1816, he led the longest revolt in Barbados against white plantation owners. At the time, Bassa was a head ranger at Bailey's. The revolt was well planned and organized as an attempt to influence the general abolitionist politics of the time. Bassa commanded some 400 freedom fighters against troops of the 1st West India Regiment. However, he was killed in battle. His troops continued the fight until they were defeated by firepower. But it's reported that many went into battle shouting the name of Bassa. For this reason, the rebellion has been known to generations of Barbados as Bossa's Rebellion. In 1985, a full 169 years later, the Emancipation Statue was unveiled in Barbados. Bossa still lives. Today, the plantation's great house is still standing and has become the residence and recording studio of international musician Eddie Grant. On a recent visit to Bailey's, it was indeed a pleasure to view the superb architectural aspects of the home. The exquisite abundance, the exotic flora, and the meticulous landscaping made the visit a truly memorable experience, except for one particular historical event in 1816 at that very same plantation. My entire being turned to the year 1816, and a development that dramatically changed the eternal landscape of the slave rebellion and its impact on the lives of African people brought in chains to work this very same ground. The ironic situation of someone of slave ancestry now owning a piece of history brings joy coupled with a tinge of grateful remembrance for Bossa and the other countless slaves sacrificing their lives who started the rebellion that ended plutocracy and sent a shudder around the world. Standing on the high bluffs of this hallowed ground, you can hear the cries and feel the pain of a bygone era. The visit to Bailey's was a tremendous high point and gratefully welcomed. Sweet Bottom is the oldest non-white village on the island. Developed long before emancipation, it was created by a request in the will of Francis Butcher, owner of Golden Ridge Plantation, which was probated in 1777. Gifts of 5-acre plots of land, stone houses, livestock, and money were bequeathed to one black slave and to Butcher's 4 mulatto children. Located at the bottom of a ridge, it is among the best agricultural land in the island and was particularly sweet for free slaves, hence the name Sweet Bottom. To this day, this area is now known as Sweet Vale. Is still among the best agricultural land. A well-known native of Sweet Bottom is Shirley Garnes, a former Miss Barbados bodybuilding and fitness champion, and the first woman to become president of Barbados Bodybuilding and Fitness Association. The first British settlers stepped ashore in 1627 at what is now known as Holetown on the west coast of the island in the parish of St. James. In 1637, sugarcane was introduced to the island and Barbados became the first Caribbean territory to establish large sugar plantations. Slavery was abolished in 1838, and the island was given its own separate government in 1885. Universal adult suffrage was gained in 1950 under the then Premier of Barbados, Grantley Adams, and full internal self-government was achieved in 1961. Despite the long wars of supremacy in the Caribbean between European powers, Barbados remained a British colony until it became an independent nation within the British Commonwealth on November the 30th, 1966. Earl Walton Barrow became the first Prime Minister. Barbados' political system is modeled on the Westminster system of government. It is governed by a parliament consisting of two houses, namely the Senate and the House of Assembly. The parliamentary system of Barbados is one of the oldest in the Western Hemisphere. The Governor General is the titular head of state, representing the Crown. The population of Barbados is approximately 260,000, and the languages spoken here are English and Bajan, an Afro-English language. The country boasts a 98% literacy rate, one of the highest in the world. Education is compulsory from ages 5 to 16. Primary school is the first 6 years, and secondary school is the following 7 years. Tertiary and post-secondary facilities are available through the University of the West Indies. When one speaks of history, particularly pertaining to the island of Barbados, one must stop and ponder the amazing progress a mere 23 years after the first settlement was established in 1650. This Jacobean mansion, St. Nicholas Abbey, was built in the year 1650. It is one of only 3 existing Jacobean structures in the Western Hemisphere. St. Nicholas Abbey, as you view it today, has been lovingly restored by architect Larry Warren, his wife Hannah, and family. The plantation and many outbuildings remain much as they were for the previous 3 centuries, thus preserving a wealth of history and tradition. In August of each year, Barbadians celebrate in grand style the climax of an eventful week of Crop-Over Festival. Competitions are held for satirical songs, ethnic food, and the battle of the bands. This festival represents the ending of the sugarcane harvest when slaves danced and sang. As the crowds gather, food and drinks are assembled to fortify the participants the entire length of the parade route. The Grand Condument, as the parade of bands is called, attracts thousands of revelers from across the world. Costumed and in colorful attire, they dance their way from the National Stadium to Spring Garden Highway, of course, fortified with Barbados' finest rum. Thousands of locals and visiting family and friends either join in the fun and revelry or watch from the stands. All ages, sizes, and standing in life participate in a fun-filled day for all. This is an eagerly waited cultural event, and as the last strains of band music fades, the planners are already at work to make next year's event even better. This celebration that began by slaves at the end of the sugarcane harvest, where men, women, and children worked under the most brutal conditions, has become the most celebrated cultural event in Barbados. The spectacular event attracts thousands of visitors from around the world. The costume revelry, music, dancing brings together individuals from all classes, colors, and distinctions. Sometimes we forget it was all originated at the time of slavery. We have indeed come a long way from slavery to independence, and certainly beyond.
Yeah, I wanna say plenty. I wanna say plenty. I wanna say plenty.
The Sons of God Apostolic Spiritual Baptist form of worship introduced many Afro-Barbadians to an African perspective of Christianity. One observer notes it is the only church which has not allowed the Eurocentric directives of the traditional church in Barbados to lead it astray. Rather, Spiritual Baptists practice their faith according to many traditions of their ancestral forefathers, though the doctrine has attracted other races who have been led to baptism in the faith over the years. It was Archbishop Granville Williams' vision to reorient Christianity to suit the large Barbadian population of African descent, and to give them a way of worship reflective of their African persona. But the man who remains committed to his vision of creating a new religious and personal consciousness among Barbadians of African descent today says, I came to Barbados from Trinidad to bring black people back to black orientation. I was not afraid then, and I am not afraid now.
The shout echoed across the bay pasture. It was a shout of excitement and recognition, but it was also a sincere shout of camaraderie. This was wee boy, a Bayland hero returning home. He was not knighted yet, and he was far away from becoming the right excellent. But in the eyes of the people who knew of his exploits, he was already Sir Gary, to us his faithful and forever present followers. Anyone who knew this great man knew that he was destined for greatness from the first time they saw him, either in the old gold bars at the Spartan Cricket Ground where he excelled as a goalkeeper, or at Kensington Oval where he established himself as the greatest cricketer the world had ever seen. He never once exhibited the weak talent of arrogance. He was too confident to be burdened with this unnecessary baggage. Gary was, and Gary is the boy now become a man from the Bayland. The entire Caribbean and even the cricketing world embraced Gary as their own. His presence always inspired awe. For one wonders, how can such a great man exhibit such simple humility and yet command such respect? And when he speaks, it is heard from Barbados to Australia, resonating with an equal respect among those who understand the game, knowing that Sir Gary never speaks or comments on any subject without having thought out his answer thoroughly and in the best interest of cricket. Yes, cricket was where Gary made his name, but Barbados was where he made his lasting impression. He was a Barbadian first, proud, patriotic, and a loyal son. In the 60s, every one of us turned up our collar and prayed that we would become left-handers so that we could emulate his walk, his smile, his classic yet innovative approach to batting. We wanted to have his ability to remember faces from his past with a clarity and respect that some of today's champions work so hard to forget. Those of us who watched him along with his brother Gerald pummel the St. Giles attack and forecasted that he would become one of the greatest cricketers in the world could still approach this great man and be greeted with a wide-toothed smile and an outstretched hand and a little joke about an incident that we shared in the past. This made us feel a part of his world and created a vicarious attachment that allowed us to say with confidence, "My Gary is my friend." They loved him, not for his greatness, but for his ability to be one of the boys. He did not come down to them, he brought them up to him. This was the caliber of a man we now call right excellent. Hail the man! Long live our hero, our friend, our legacy. Gary the Brave.
Beautiful shot by Gary Sobers. Really picked that up and took it away through mid-wicket. It's sweating. Really nice sweating for the lunch. That's another one. And he's done it! Oh my goodness, it's gone!
the statue of Errol Walton Barrow stands 9.5 feet high. A national hero.
Everybody knows of the Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow, father of independence and all of that. But those of us who have had the privilege of being in close proximity to Errol Barrow, the man, had an experience and a circumstance that cannot be duplicated and is unlikely to be duplicated in one's lifetime.
A man who has made significant contribution to the development of Barbados. The first Prime Minister of an independent Barbados. He was called by those who adored him the father of our independence.
Errol Barrow was a hero to us long before he became a national hero.
He fought and he won this particularly great merit for the smallest nation in the world to have sought independence. He has numerous followers, some who worship him, others who love him.
You have to understand this young fellow coming in from New York, going to meet the head of government in Barbados, and the head of government is behaving as if I am the one who is important coming into his office. And I realized there and then and forever thereafter, by observing Errol Barrow, that there were some old world courtesies which were ingrained in his character and in his personality, which made him different from most people one would meet in one's existence. The legacy of the British that we got, British education and speaking the English language well, that legacy is the most important legacy we received from the slave trade. You will find that Barbadians used to settle arguments with words. This nation has triumphed in all kinds of adversity, primarily because education was the chief means of social mobility. Hence, when the late Right Excellent Errol Barrow moved to make free education a plank of the political platform, it was embraced by everybody, all and sundry, immediately, and it became the watchword of this nation.
But through it all, he has remained Errol Walton Barrow, the father of our independence, the first Prime Minister of Barbados, a man to be looked upon with respect for the dignified manner in which he carried our country forward. The Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow.
The happiness as we celebrate the independence from Great Britain is indeed a joyous occasion. There is no memory that time cannot heal.
don't you know? Wanna feel the earth between my feet. Don't wanna be alone by your telephone. I thought the city was the best. Oh no, now I've got to go and do the rest. I gotta get some village life. I will my body need a lover. Yo, village life. I will my body need a lover. Mercy, mercy, mercy me. I wanna be rolling on my back like a rabbit jack. Now to lead her back. Yeah, I wanna say plenty. I wanna say plenty. I wanna say plenty. Hey, to my mouth. Listening to a prayer meeting, Baptist people preaching, with the leader in front of people shaking. So I tell my partner, boy, let me get closer, because I tell myself I hearing so far. Though it was something meant to be spiritual, to me it seemed just like it was bacchanal. Oh, for the dancing wild, jumping out of time. If you see Baptist woman whine. Well, hello, Africa. Well, hello, Africa. Tell me how you do, Africa. Tell me how you do, Africa. Hey, Jambo Wanawa, Africa. Jambo Wanawa, Africa. Abali Ghani wa Africa.